Introducing Paddy Power's Beat the Drop. We're giving every customer 30 days free entry and £1,000 up front. It's up to you to keep it. All you have to do is answer 10 questions correctly. Play now at beatthedrop.paddypower.com.
Hello and welcome to this Monday Postcast. I'm Maddie Plale, joined in the studio by Nick Watts and Tom Collins and Tom Nugent from Paddy Power as well. For the first section of the programme, we're going to look back on Champions Day. What a magnificent day it was. Starting off with the showpiece event, Cracksman winning the Champions Stakes. What team blinkers, did they make all the difference for you, or do you just think it was the soft ground that helped him show his best?
It certainly didn't do him any harm, did it? I mean, you know, he did it without last year and with this year. You know, I'm not after timing, because I said this last week and in the run-up to the show, but I always thought it was, you know, a degree of nonsense talked about Cracksman this season, that, you know, he maybe was on the downgrade, maybe wasn't interested in the game anymore, you know, hadn't done this right, hadn't done that right. He still won 2 Group 1s this season and finished second behind Poet's Word with a very long way back to the third on the wrong ground, and Poet's Word then went and won the King George on his next start. So it wasn't actually too bad a run. You know, I never thought that kind of, you know, quick Ascot summer ground would really suit him, and he showed, you know, this time last year what a force he is when he just gets a bit of dig in the ground, and he pulverised them last season. And you know, even in the run-up to the race, people were talking about headgear as a potential negative for him, but I saw that as a positive. If you've got a horse that is maybe just thinking about things a little bit and just needs keeping his mind on the job, then why not stick a pair of blinkers on him? They do it a lot in you know, abroad in America in particular. It doesn't do them any harm at all. You know, obviously kept his mind on the job, and he won very, very easily. As I'm not going to say I thought he'd win as easily as he did, but I expected him to win comfortably, and that's what he did. Yeah.
Tom Collins, what do you think about the whole blinkers situation? Do you think it made that much of a difference?
I'm not entirely sure if it made that much of a difference, to be honest. He just performed like he did last year in the race. I don't think Capri ran up to his usual standard, and Crystal Ocean were disappointing as well. It was a one-horse race, really, from the outset. Although he did lose
from a form perspective, how strongly do you rate it with the Czech horse running an absolute blinder to finish third? Do you sort of think it wasn't that great a race in the end, or?
Yeah, I don't think his main market rivals actually ran to their ability, to be honest. But obviously Cracksman ran up to his ability, so behind him, I don't think it was very strong at all. The Czech Republic horse did run really well, though. Have to point that out. Yeah, it was just one horse race from a long way out, really. Frankie kicked at exactly the right time.
Yeah, and do you think because he sort of maybe didn't go on that hot summer ground, do you view him as less of a horse because of that, or how do you stand on where he ranks among some of the recent greats?
I mean, he's up there, isn't he? He's Frankel's best son. He's had a great career. I think he's won 8 races from 11 starts or something. He's done really well. He's a very good horse. I've never been a massive fan, but I mean, hands up, he's very good, and he did it very well.
Yeah, Tom Nugent, what do you think? Are you a big Cracksman fan?
I wouldn't say I'm a massive Cracksman fan, but I don't think there can be any doubt that he goes to stud now. A very, very good horse. A winner at 2 classic place and Group 1 running 3-year-old, and a dual Champion Stakes winner. There's absolutely no doubt that he's very good. And it's a funny one. He was kind of just underestimated for only barely winning the Coronation Stakes in Epsom in June and then getting beaten by Poet's Word, but he's a very, very good horse, and he goes to stud with his credentials fully intact.
Yep, Frankie Dettori lucky enough to ride Cracksman and Enable this year. 2 Champion Stakes, 2 Arcs, not too shabby. Moving on to the QE2, we saw a really tenacious performance from Roaring Lion. He's crowned an excellent season. What's he been on the go for a long while, but a horse that you're really fond of?
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't disappointed to see him win at all. And you know, both Cracksman and Roaring Lion show the brilliance of John Gosden. Cracksman,
indeed, yeah,
slightly difficult to train in his own way. And Roaring Lion first, you know, when he first reappeared this season, and at the back end of last season, he used to hang a little bit. Didn't run particularly well in the Craven. Ran okay in the Guineas, you know, a little bit better. But you know, looking back on it now, if you were looking at him then, you wouldn't say he'd gone on to do the things that he has done. So on the wrong ground as well. Just like to pick up on something from the race. I'm interested to see what Tom Collins thinks about this, because we were both keen on the Century Dream, and I was watching the race and I was getting quite excited at one stage. You know, he was travelling really, really well, but I just thought William Buick went about a furlong too soon and allowed them to come at him. Tom Seagal, it's a point he makes constantly. You have to wait at Ascot. When you're thinking about going, probably just wait 2, 3, 4 seconds until you actually do, because it's a long way home. William Buick just looked as though he got a bit excited then because the horse was travelling so well. And if you stop the race 2 furlongs out, Century Dream looks like the winner. But because he's taken up such a long way out, he just gives the others a chance to get going, close him down, and you got done on the line, basically. I think beaten less than a length in third. I just thought with a bit more patience, he might well have hung on and given us a nice price winner. But hats off to Roaring Lion.
Yeah, before I go to Tom Collins, go to you first, Tom Nugent, because the one that my eye was drawn to was I Can Fly, because she just got no way through, travelled really well and was only just beaten in the end, so much improved performance from her. But what was your verdict on Roaring Lion? He really showed a lot of courage, didn't he?
Yeah, no, he was great. And to be honest with you, I was watching the race with a couple of friends, and I thought he was beaten a ways out. He was niggled. And I was very interested to see how keen both Oisin Murphy and John Gosling were to state how much the ground didn't suit him, even though the narrative going into the race would be that this ground actually might bring about a bit of improvement. They were very, very keen to stress how much.
Really? Where did you hear that? You think it would improve him?
But sorry, they thought that the narrative, not just generally across the media, that Kitten's Joys enjoy a bit of cutting the ground, and this might bring about a bit of improvement. But they were so keen to say afterwards how much he hated it and how much he just had to put everything on the line basically to get the job done. And he's running an absolute blinder. I Can Fly has obviously ran a big race too, but he's a very, very good horse. Yeah,
he is indeed. Tom Collins, Century Dream, what did you make of his run, given what Watsy said?
I just fully agree with Watsy. I think William Buick went too soon. It was the best horse in the race on the day, on the ground especially, and I'm pretty sure he would have won if Buick held on to him for a little bit longer. Roaring Lion just class shone through, really, didn't it? He hated the ground. He hated every minute of it. Thought he was beat from the first furlong until about 100 yards from the line. Credit to I Can Fly, though, because it seemed to favour those towards the front of a reasonably slow pace, and I Can Fly travelled like an absolute dream. Didn't expect that. Ran an absolute screamer. And little shout out to Lord Glitters as well, ran his usual good race.
Yeah, he did. Moving on to future targets, Breeders' Cup Classic or Breeders' Cup Turf, which way would you go, Tom Collins?
Neither.
Neither? And why is that?
I'd retire him now. I think that race is going to have a bit of an effect on him. Just really hate the ground. He had to work extremely hard. I don't think he'll win the Breeders' Cup either race.
Okay. I think it's quite extraordinary, Watsy, how, as you mentioned, he was a bit wayward towards the start of the season, but John Gosling's managed to turn him into a horse that actually really wants to win more than anything. You be with Tom Collins, Breeders' Cup? Yes, no?
I'd probably say no. I mean, that's not his first hard race in a row, is it? He went over to Ireland and had a really, really tough one out there and really had to guts it out as well. So that's 2 in a row. He's been on the go since the Craven, which is an awful long time ago when you think about it. So, and I think he's got less to prove than Cracksman in a way. Cracksman is kind of still, it's a shame he's going to stud so soon because there's still a bit of unfinished business there, I think, and he's never run in an arc or whatever. But
he had nothing to lose by running on Champions Day, did he? If he would have lost that race, he just would have gone straight off to stud anyway.
But I think with Roaring Lion, he's danced every dance this season. He's probably taken the owners and John Gosling to places they never thought possible when the season started. So, I think discretion, the better part of valour, and send him off to stud. Okay,
Tom Nugent, what do the bookies say? What price is he for both of those contests?
He's 5-1 for the turf and 10-1 for the classic, despite the fact that Roaring Lion was bred in America. His pedigree is very much turf orientated, so I'd imagine that's why he's a little bit shorter for the turf race. So there you go.
Yeah, and we don't know how he's going to act on dirt.
Gosling did say after the race he was going to go for the classic though, but he thought the kickback may be the main negative, so he was umming and ahhing whether to actually send him there.
Yeah, and he'll avoid Enable if he goes for the classic as well, so interesting to see if he can be held up and deal with that kickback or not. Who knows if he's going to go. I think perhaps he will go now. Maybe they would have announced he would have retired straight after the race if that was the plan. Watsy, you think?
They could have done. I think let's let the dust settle a little bit, see how he comes out of the race. I'm sure they'll decide, in good time.
Yeah, Magical put up a really good performance to win the Fillies mare. She could well go to the Breeders' Cup and face Wild Illusion there, but immediate reaction to her win.
Yeah, it's another one for Aidan O'Brien. He won the race last season, of course, with Hydrangea, who was well beaten this time. It's funny, I thought the O'Brien Fillies kind of mid-season were much of a muchness. He had like horses like Magical, Happily, Magic Wand, Even the obviously had the Oaks winner as well, but kind of they've all kind of disappointed at some stages of the season. But you know, fair play to Magical. You know, she's got it back here, and you know, if you can pinch these Group 1s, obviously with horses who, you know, she's not one you'd maybe remember on the top of your list when you're looking back on the season or anything like that. But you know, she's done her job and she's pinched a Group 1 on Champions Day, so you can't say fairer than that.
Yeah, and she had a large chunk of the season she was absent for, ran really well in the Arc and then came forward to win there. So what chance do you give her at the Breeders' Cup, Tom Collins?
She's got a chance. She's had a light campaign, and she did it quite well, to be honest. She quickened up and made Latidar look a bit silly from between the 2 and the 1 furlong.
What did you make of her run, Latidar?
I think she ran well. She just lacked a little bit of tactical speed at the main part of the race. I think she hit the front, and I thought she was going to win because obviously she's got stamina in abundance. But I don't know, she just got past and then seemed to stay on again. I think she'll be a much better filly next year. Yeah,
I think maybe she's still slightly showing signs of inexperience in a big race like that. I think she sort of stargazed a little bit when she got to the front, but that could just be me. Tom Nugent, what do we think of Magical's Breeders' Cup prospects?
She is in the Filly and Mares Turf, third favourite, 11-2 at the moment. I wouldn't be at all surprised if they go. Ballydoyle have been fairly keen to push the policy of just keeping those mares busy. It doesn't really matter too much with the fillies. If they get beaten, you can just run them away, and as long as they're picking up Blackett type at some point, they're happy enough to keep them ticking over. It's more the Colts they're worried about getting beat, but the fillies, they can keep them busy, so I wouldn't be surprised if she travels at all.
Yeah, he chucked a load in that Fillies and Mares, didn't he? It was sort of like, well, we'll see which one comes out best. Moving on to the sprint, now some great tipping on Friday's show, of course. Sands of Marley, one of those tips, winning at 28-1, beating Harry Angel and Don Juan Triumphant. Tom Collins, could you see it coming, Sands of Marley winning all the way from the front?
Not at all, no. I think I wrote on Live Tipster just after the race, did anyone have Sands of Marley? Okay, no, neither did I. However, credit to Paul Keeley, because I know he did tip him. I don't know how, but he did. It was a great ride from Paul Hannigan from the front. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. He's a great jockey, and to do it for Richard Fahey's obviously a big thing for him. I didn't really think it was a great race, to be honest. I think Tasleet was in the worst place the whole way through, and I was cursing after a furlong when he was out on the wing. But yeah, I never saw that one coming.
Okay, and what's his Sands of Marley had shown that he was a classy horse, but perhaps a lot of people not thinking he'd necessarily do it on Saturday.
No, but I mean, it's an easy thing in hindsight, isn't it? But I got this race completely wrong last week, and you know, I actually tipped Breeze, who ran another very disappointing race actually. But it was the kind of contest, you know, looking back on it, where Tasleet, Brando, the Tin Man, Breeze, they all kind of win in their turn, but there was nothing exceptional there. Harry Angel never wins at Ascot. So, you know, maybe it was the kind of race to have a go at one at a big price, and obviously Paul Keeley found the right one with Sands of Marley, who did have some good course form to his name, because he all but won the Commonwealth Cup. He ran in at Royal Ascot when he ran very, very well that day. Just failed to get up. So there were a few omens there that, you know, and I think he had a good prior run before coming to this race. So there were a few things in the background that suggested he could run well, and you know, whereas I kind of stayed with the tried and trusted, it turned out to be a day in that particular race to have a flyer at one, and it's come off very well for Connections.
Yeah, at TC we mentioned beforehand that Harry Angel's career's sort of just petered out. What do you reckon's happened with him? I mean, had some great highlights in there, but you couldn't really rely on him, could you?
No, not at all. I think he ran a really good race, to be fair to him. Obviously, he went in the stalls, didn't he? And then he just backed out again. When
yeah, he wasn't very happy beforehand again.
No, he seemed to jump all right though, and he travelled in his keen, usual way. I thought he was going to win, but his stamina didn't, kind of ebbed away again, and I'm not sure really. I don't think they should go abroad with him.
Okay, and Tom Nugent, did you catch any eye catchers who were finishing in behind for next year, maybe, or anything for the future?
No, I'd say the winner is probably one for the future, but it was one for it was a result for the books, definitely, because we were talking about it on Friday evening before kind of everyone finished up for the weekend, and the people who were staying around for the weekend shift were going to work Saturday, and the old Gosden four-timer had you looking at Ascot and kind of grimacing a little bit, and when Stradivarius goes in, you're kind of thinking, oh God, you need to get Harry Angel beat at the very least, and ideally out of the frame. Now you got him beat anyway with a 28-1 shot, and then getting Latidar beaten was a big bonus, but In hindsight, Sans Mally, like the Commonwealth Cup run is a fair run, but I definitely wouldn't have seen it. So kudos to Paul Keeley.
You mentioned him there, Stradivarius, his win in the Long Distance Cup. This was a really interesting race from a tactical perspective. He managed to get up Ryan Moore's inside. A lot of criticism there for why he let him through. And then, of course, he shut the door on Oisin Murphy on Thomas Hobson. But Stradivarius, I was really worried about the ground beforehand. He'd never won on going with soft in it beforehand. But his class just prevailed in the end. What did you make of Stradivarius, Tom Nugent? And next year, do you think anything could possibly challenge him?
At the moment, it looks unlikely. He's a very much a standout stayer at the moment. He's a beautiful looking horse as well. Yeah, no, he was good, and there was a bit of criticism for Ryan letting him through, and then they thought I didn't see the Stewards' Inquiry. I'm not sure was it televised afterwards, but he definitely did cut up Thomas Hobson a little bit. And I didn't get to see a head-on replay either. But he's a very good horse on faster ground, and to do what he did and over good horses can win on any ground in any condition, and he just proved that he's a very good horse.
Yeah, TC, I thought Aidan O'Brien would win the race, I've got to be honest. And I was a bit sort of perplexed by the tactics, because I thought if they went fast that would suit them, but they ended up going really slowly. What did you make of the whole interference? I mean, there was some great shots from the jockey cam of Oisin Murphy being cut off in the closing stages.
Yeah, I thought it was a great ride from Frankie, to be honest. I thought it was always going to happen. He was going to get boxed in on the inside. Yeah. Ryan in front, two stablemates on the outside. He just did amazingly well to quicken up on the rails to turn for home, but you had to have the horse under him to do so. Obviously, then Oisin came through. I think Stradivarius would have held Thomas Hobson, even if there was a gap there, to be honest. Frankie obviously got 3 days ban, I think, for that. But he was clever because he left a little gap, but not enough for Thomas Hobson to actually go through. So didn't have to properly snatch up. He's just a great horse, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. A great display of race riding, what's he?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, you know, when you're in the position Frankie was in, sometimes, you know, Ryan Moore doesn't go off the inside and you have to think again, you have to like go to a plan B. But I kind of took the view that his superiority meant that even if it hadn't have opened up for him on the rail, I think he would have just found another way to win, because I think he was just better than those. And like you said earlier, I think the worry for me going into the race was the ground, because he hadn't done it on that kind of surface before. But he's obviously just become a complete racehorse, and, you know, it might have seemed easy, but you know, it kind of been. He had the treble to go for, of course, and, you know, they do take something out of you, these staying races, I'm sure. So for John Gosden to freshen him up again, run him on Champions Day on ground that wouldn't have suited him, to get him put a performance in like that, just shows what a great trainer he is and what a great horse he is. And it'll, you know, I'm sure something will come out of the woodwork. Maybe Kew Gardens will go down a cup route next season, but at this stage you'd struggle to bet against him for another Ascot Gold Cup winner and maybe another $1 million bonus if they're still offering that. Yeah, we'll see what happens in the Melbourne Cup, see if anything comes to light there. Moving on to Sharjah Bridges' win in the Balmoral. He was really impressive after getting stuck in traffic. Tom Collins, how high do you reckon he can fly next year?
I don't know, I wasn't that impressed, to be honest. I don't think he was actually stuck in traffic. Doyle just had to kind of weave a little bit. He didn't ever have to pull it out, and he didn't lose much ground, I don't think. There were a lot of others in the race that, God, they just had no run whatsoever against that. Go on then, who were your eye catchers in behind?
Hathal, I think, Jamie Spencer. Mitcham Swagger caught my eye as well, stayed on again at the death after travelling really well. Flaming Spear was so disappointing, I thought. He had no cover, but he had the perfect run down the outside. He looked like challenging and then just dropped out in the final furlong like something was amiss. I don't think it was a great race, to be honest. Sharjah Bridge was the best horse on the day, but I don't think he'll fly that high next season.
Okay, interesting. Do you agree?
Yeah, I was a bit like Tom. I was watching Flaming Spear going backwards and don't concentrate. And so I wasn't involved in the finish at all. And yeah, I mean, it's funny, the Balmoral handicap, it's great that they stick a handicap on there, but, you know, I was kind of exhausted after watching all the Group 1 and Group 2 action earlier on and kind of really taken up with that and talking points from that to really get too stuck into the Balmoral. Just, you know.
Where would you move it on the card? Would you have it first?
I think there's always a place for it. Yeah, I mean, maybe you would put it on first, and maybe you'd upgrade the staying race to a Group 1. I don't know, but that's really nitpicking. It's a great day's racing, and I don't care what the ground does. I don't care if it's a monsoon or if it's firm. I think it's just, you know, it's a great day, and whatever the conditions are, you know, the right horses for the ground normally come through and win. So, you know, it's enjoyable, whatever it throws up. Yeah,
and Stradivarius proved if you're good enough, then you're good enough. It perhaps doesn't matter too much about the ground. Tom Nugent, fantastic day this year. Any thoughts on the Balmoral?
Nothing really. So many of them didn't get a run, but to the point of programming, I would just say it's very, very important that the handicap stays on the card. I think it's very important that smaller yards and owners get an opportunity to run at that type of meeting. But for me, looking at the race, there was just too many that didn't get a run. I wouldn't be taking too much out of it, to be honest.
And again, would you have the handicap, the last race on the card still, or would you move it around?
I think it's a fair point to maybe put it in first. It's a good punting race, gets people involved early doors. But yeah, maybe it does get lost when you're a little bit jet lagged after having all the Group 1 action early doors.
Yeah, it'd be a good showpiece to end on the Champion Stakes, wouldn't it? To bow out after that. But anyway, Saturday officially for a lot of people marked the end of the flat season. Just a highlight from each of you personally. I'll go to you first. A horse, a story, a trainer. What's been your favourite bit of the flat season?
A bit of recency bias here because, you know, in the first half of the season we didn't really know anything about him, but Too Darn Hot, watching him win all 4 races this season has, you know, really blown me away. I love juveniles who do that kind of thing and win by long distances, long margins, and, you know, the point is that none of the horses in behind him were winning, but he still went into the Dewhurst, things went against him there, and he still did exactly the same thing, so it marks him out as a really, really classy, top-class 2-year-old. Admit the family can be a bit fragile, but just hope he trains on, and then we've all got something to look forward to next spring.
Indeed, that'd be brilliant. Tom Nugent, over to you.
Random enough one, but Mab's Cross was a June foal. Now, you can't give away June foals normally, and she was running around off of kind of 80 and touched 90 there at the end of last season, and has progressed into a Group 1 winner. I've loved watching her, and just kind of knowing a little bit about her is just makes her even more impressive. So she's been a big standout for me. And from a training perspective in Ireland, I think Richard O'Brien's season in Ireland has been absolute top notch, and fair play to him. Hopefully more to come from him.
Yeah, you've got to think there'd be more winners coming from his yard. He's done such a fantastic job with the horses he's got. And Mab's Cross, great to see her get a Group 1 in the Abbey after what happened at York. Tom Collins, what was your highlight?
Probably a couple of young jockeys. I think Jason Watson is a fantastic rider, and he's definitely one to follow in the next few seasons, to be honest. I think it was brilliant all year, especially at Brighton as well. It's such a hard track to ride, but he was fantastic there. And Oisin Murphy, who, well, I think he's probably the best jockey around at the minute, him and James Doyle. He's just been brilliant all season. I think he could actually challenge for the Jockeys' Championship if he rode a few more races, and I think he's fantastic. So just a shout out to Watson and Murphy. Yeah,
lots of variety in those highlights. Before we move on, I will just take this opportunity to annoy Tom Nugent and say, have we got any prices on next year's Jockeys' Championship with Sylvester winning it this year and some of the new lads coming through?
Leave it with me. Come back to me. I'll have a dig around.
Excellent, will do. Jason Watson, what's your word on him? He said in the paper that he's got ambitions to be champion next year. Do you think that's overly ambitious, or do you think he can do it?
No, it's not ambitious from him. I mean, if you're a young jockey and just had the season he's had, you've got to be ambitious. So if you're not thinking about the top level, then you shouldn't be in the game. So, yeah, fair play to him for voicing that. And I'm sure he will go a long way, in echoing what Tom said as well. Oisin Murphy really come of age, and, you know, he's one of the go-to jockeys now, hasn't he? He's just been brilliant.
Any fancies for next year's championship? Do you think Sylvester will snare it again?
He probably will, because he's willing to do the hard yards. So he'll go to Catterick on a summer's night, or he'll, you know, go up to Musselburgh, he'll come down to Bath, he'll ride wherever, and that's what you've got to do to be the champion jockey. It's what Richard Johnson does in the jumps day in, day out. And, you know, it's not about just turning up to the big meetings on a Saturday. It's about doing the hard graft on a quiet Monday at, you know, like I said, Catterick or somewhere like that.
Indeed. Tom Nugent, any prices?
No, all national hunt. We're getting the flat out of our system now at this stage.
No worries whatsoever. And on that, we'll just take a quick breather.
Introducing Paddy Power's Beat the Drop. We're giving every customer 30 days free entry and £1,000 up front. It's up to you to keep it. All you have to do is answer 10 questions correctly. Play now at beatthedrop.paddypower.com.
Welcome back to the Monday Postcast. After the Champions Day review, we're now going to talk about Saturday's highlight at Doncaster, which is the Vertem Futurity. Won by some really good horses in the past. The likes of Saxon Warrior won it last year, beating Roaring Lion at Kingston Hill and Camelot. But at the same time, see a few of the recent winners, Marcel, Rivet and Kingsbarns, they've never even won another race. So it's definitely a polarising race. But who would your selection be at this early stage?
It's funny you would ask. I was telling you a minute ago about Too Darn Hot and horses in behind him not having done much of the form, but I'm going to give a chance to one who did finish second to him last time at Doncaster, called Phoenix of Spain, trained by Charlie Hills. I think the miles suit him down to the ground. Like I said, that was a really good run at Doncaster last time out, and that was just backing up really what he'd done at York the time before, and he won the Acomb. Very strong at the finish at York. I think a mile will be completely within his remit. I think Tom mentioned he was 9 to 2 third favourite. You know, and he's shown a good bit of progression. So I think it's his fourth start of the season now. So experience-wise, perfect. I think he'll handle a bit of cutting the ground if there is any. So you know, he's in the right zone for me, price-wise and form-wise, to go and win this. Okay,
Tom Nugent, over to you. Just clarify those prices for us.
Yeah, these are subject to change, buddy, but Magna Grecia is the 7 to 4 favourite at the moment. Turgenev 3 to 1 second favourite, 9 to 2 Phoenix of Spain, 8 to 1 Kadar, 8 to 1 Japan, 12 to 1 and bigger the rest. And the one I was going to go with was Phoenix of Spain, so roll in behind Watsy. As long as Too Darn Hot hasn't broken his heart, he should run a decent race, and 9 to 2 is more than fair.
Fantastic. Tom Collins, you and myself were both on Andre Farb's horse at Newmarket, but Magna Grecia put up a really nice run just behind him, just losing out in the closing stages. Do you think he could be another O'Brien winner of this race, or are you looking elsewhere?
It's interesting that O'Brien's supplemented Magna Grecia because he's got so many others in the race. Norway, Japan were some, I think, that were also in the contest. But no, I'll be looking elsewhere. I like Turgenev, or Turgenev if you want to go with the old chaser, I think he was. He ran really well behind subsequent Jean-Luc Lagardère winner Royal Marine on debut, went well backed. And he's just looked like a Group 1 horse, I thought, in his 2 subsequent starts, especially last time at Newmarket. Although the second, Il Paradiso's let the form down a little bit. I think he'll go really close. And Tom, what price is Stormwave for Rafe Beckett?
I will tell you now, 25 to 1.
Yeah, I think he could be one to follow. I'm not sure this will be his race, but he looked really good on debut at Salisbury, and it's interesting that Rafe Beckett supplemented him subsequently as well. So I think he could be one to follow at a price.
Okay, some long shots, that's what we like to hear. And moving on to Cheltenham, after we've given Doncaster a quick flick over. It's the first meeting of their new season on Friday and Saturday, this showcase. Did you have a look at this? Any horses that you're looking forward to seeing?
Yeah, there's some interesting entries. I haven't really been. There's some handicaps with big, a lot of entries at the moment, so it takes quite a bit of sifting through. So, but just a few names, if they did happen to turn up, Move with the Times, who's still a novice, quite interesting. Disappointed at Cheltenham at the festival when they ran him in the handicap, didn't cut any ice there, but he's kept his novice status back for this season. Lost in Translation has got an entry there. Kilbrick and Storm, who won the Albert Bartlett at the festival, he's got an entry too. And the entry stage at this for both days at Cheltenham is really encouraging. There's a lot of horses entered. There's a lot of Irish horses entered as well. Gordon Elliott's got a whole heap in there, as you'd expect. So I think it looks like it's going to hold up, which is great, because often it doesn't at this time of year if you haven't had the rain. So if any of those take part, then we'll have a meeting to look forward to. Yeah,
I'd be excited to see Kilbrick and Storm. Really big fan of him. Think he's a bit underestimated. Tom Collins, over to the jumps. More of a flat man, but what are we looking forward to seeing on Friday and Saturday?
Definitely more of a flat man, but I think there's a couple of really good days of racing, to be honest. I think, as what he said, Lost in Translation is the key horse over the 2 days. I think he had a great season hurdling last year, and he's a big chasing sort, so anything he did last year was going to be a bonus. They did finish second in the Grade 1 Mersey as well, behind Blackhawk. I think Brewing Up a Storm as well is a name to follow. Ollie Murphy's hurdler. He was really, really impressive on his first victory last year when he beat Portrush Ted, and Murphy was just, I don't know, he was saying how good he was, and he was talking him up, and then he didn't really do anything. He only had one run after that, and he lost. I think he could be a name to follow this year, and he's entered as well, which is interesting.
Yeah, big reputation from Point to Points. Tom Nugent, you were at a Point to Point yesterday, I believe, and jumps is more your game, am I fair to say?
You would be, yeah. It's kind of what I grew up on, but looking forward to Cheltenham. Dinans was one I was keeping an eye on. Gordon Elliott sends him over. Frustrating bumper horse, but has been a different beast altogether with Timber in front of him so far this summer. And he'll be a relatively seasoned novice in comparison to some of the rivals he'll face. But God knows how good he is, but he'll definitely be hard fit and has lots of experience. He's a 4-time winner over hurdles now at this stage. And the other one that I was keeping an eye on from last season was Sebastopol for Tom Lacey. I'd have Tom Lacey down as one of the shrewdest operators in the UK at the moment. And Sebastopol was a good winner of a bumper up in Ayr, I think. And wouldn't be going to Cheltenham for the day out.
Yeah, Tom Lacey, a fantastic trainer, did really well at Aintree and elsewhere as well. Now, a jumper to follow from each of you. Tom, I'll go to you first. I think I know who you're going to pick, but we'll see.
No, I'll give you three. I'll give you two bumper horses from, actually, the boat one in Balmoral. One was Gypsy Island for Peter Fahey. Mountain Leinster for Willie Mullins, who was very impressive recently, and Rhinestone, who will be a novice hurdler for Joseph O'Brien.
Yes. Okay, fantastic. Tom Collins, horse to follow for the jumps.
Lust for Glory. Nicky Henderson's really sweet on her, and she ran really well when absolutely hacking up at Ludlow when last seen. She's got plenty of all-round speed, and she looks a great performer in the making.
Yeah, talented mare. I know a few people up at Nicky Henderson's actually. A big fan of Lust for Glory. What's the final? Over to you for the verdict.
Yeah, it's a mare who missed last season, but she's back in now. Another one in Nicky Henderson's called Daphne Duclos. Ran a couple of times in bumpers the season before and really well beat Western Rider on the second of them, which is good form. She's back, and you know, normally the mares division is dominated by Willie Mullins, but she could be one who could put it up to the Mullins horses.
Yeah, I think she was fancied for the champion bumper, wasn't she, before she was ruled out for injury? So very interesting to see how Daphne Duclos gets on back this season. That should do us for today. Thanks for joining us, and don't forget, if you enjoy these shows, please rate, review and subscribe wherever you are listening to us from. Bruce will be back on Friday with a more detailed look at the weekend's action, and you can catch our weekly golf postcasts on Wednesday and football show on Thursday. Until next time, enjoy your racing, good luck with your betting, and goodbye.
Introducing Paddy Power's Beat the Drop. We're giving every customer 30 days free entry and a grand up front. It's up to you to keep it. All you have to do is answer 10 questions correctly. Play now at beatthedrop.paddypower.com.